Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Deep Thoughts. Tonight's Deep Thoughts is brought to you by climate change hysteria. This whole climate change discussion calls to mind a comedy bit that one of my favorite comedians, Jerry Seinfeld, did about hydration. You can look it up on YouTube if you haven't seen it, but I'll just give a quick summary of that. He said, Jerry's friends come to him, Jerry, you got to hydrate. Everybody's telling me to hydrate on the plane, at the gym. And they tell me, do you know what could happen if you don't hydrate? He says, what? You could get dehydrated. But then Jerry asks, well, wouldn't I get thirsty first? They say, if you're thirsty, it's too late. So he says, well, what do I do? Well, just try and catch the pieces of your crumbling face as they fall to the floor. Anyways, this reminds me of the hysteria about climate change. This whole climate change hysteria thing, absolutely, I find hysterical. Just think about this, though. Isn't there a few pieces of key information that you'd want to have before you spend a dime on climate change prevention? First of all, I wrote some notes here. Let me just read these to myself here. First of all, question one. Has there ever been a time when the climate has not changed? I think everyone will admit that climate changes. That's what it does. It has since the beginning of time, and it will continue to change forever. Okay? So let me get this straight. We're going to stop the climate from changing? Is that what we're going to do? The arrogance of that statement is just astounding to me. Okay, next question you want to ask so we want to stop the climate from changing, as if that would even ever be possible. Okay, so what is the optimum climate? From the beginning of time to now, what is the optimum climate that we're trying to zero in on? I've asked these questions to many a climate change hysteria supporter. Oh, change, colder or warmer, anything is bad. Any change is bad. We need to lock her in, lock that climate in to now. I guess is the logic. Because no one is offering up any ideas about when the optimum climate. If I had my druthers, I would like, I live in Utah, I'd like it a little bit warmer. I'm getting, as I get older, I'm getting a little bit tired of snow. I'd actually like it a little bit warmer, be able to play tennis outdoor longer throughout the year. And along with that, if you want to spend trillions of dollars, wouldn't you expect to have a target? No one's ever talking about a target. We want to keep the climate within this range of temperature. It would be absurd on its face, and no one would ever say that because you would never, be able to do that. But what's the target of all this? Okay. So here's my next question. Question number 3. If the climate has always changed and always will change, how could we measure the effect of let's say we adopt all these expensive measures that people are proposing. How would you measure what would have happened without spending any money versus what actually happened after you spend all this money? There's absolutely no way you could measure what actually happened versus what would have happened if we had done nothing. There's no way to measure that. I suppose they would say it doesn't matter. We just got to keep her locked in. We got to keep that temperature locked in. And obviously we'd never do that. I mean, we'd never be able to achieve that, but at least we're trying something. And the world is coming together to lock her in. It's just absurd on its face to me. So before you invested in a project, let's say you wanted to invest in somebody's, they've got a good idea and you wanted to invest in that, wouldn't you want some simple questions like these 3 questions that I've laid out here answered before you spent a dime? So we don't have a target. We have no way of measuring what would happen if we did or if we didn't do the things that we're proposing. It's just absurd on its face. But anyways, of all my 58 years on this earth, I've never met a person, not one person, that has said, the climate is driving me nuts. It keeps changing and it's causing me this inconvenience or this hardship. Not one person. Yes, there are people like Greta Thunberg or whatever it is who have been taught to believe that or the world's going to come to an end if we don't do something. I mean, the climate change alarmists want you convinced. They're convinced, at least they claim, that we're all going to die if we don't do something. And even though we can spend every dime we have towards doing something, and there's no way we can measure if that had any effect or not against what actually happened versus what would have happened if we would have done nothing. There's no way we can measure that, but by damn, we've got to do something. Anyway, so I live in Utah, grew up here, born here. I spent a few years away, so there was a short period where I was away and did not see what the climate was doing. Well, I was constantly visiting here, so I guess I did. But let me tell you, in my 58 years in Utah, not much has changed. Nothing has changed. Yeah, we've had years with lots of snow. We've had years of little snow. We've had strange weather phenomenon for brief periods of time. I remember when I was about probably 12 years old, January, February, I was playing tennis outdoor down at the elementary school with my friend Chuck. We had some nice weather. And then I remember I've been buried in the snow, I think it was 1983. Yeah, after the winter of 82. Spring of 1983 in Salt Lake City. After a record of snowfall, we had Main Street in downtown Salt Lake City was a river. Store owners were sandbagging in front of the stores, and the Main Street, or was it State Street? I think it was Main Street. Main Street was literally a river running down from the state capitol up to, what was that, City Creek Canyon, I think it is, that river up there. And also the other canyons coming down in other parts of the valley were overflowing with too much water. So this is 1983. I remember I think it was I think we were in high school. In August, a hot August day, I remember it hailing all of a sudden. A hailstorm in August, in the August heat. And big hailstones. And in about the space of 5 or 10 minutes, the whole landscape was white. Yeah, and then the storm blew over and it melted in about an hour or so, probably. Weather happens. Yes, weather happens. But I'm here to tell you that in my 58 years in Utah, nothing's changed. So is Utah a safe bubble that is immune to climate change? No. People, come to your senses. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. On its face. Although, there are some things we could agree, all people could agree about. We all want clean air. We all want clean water. Can't we focus on that? That's all we want. Oh, and then another thing. Who is qualified? Even if we could control the climate and lock her down, it's never going to happen, people. It's never going to happen. Even if we could, who is the authority on saying what's optimal? What's the optimal climate? If we were warmer, I have a feeling a lot of lives would be saved by warmer weather rather than people freezing in the cold and whatnot. But anyway, neither here nor there. But I personally like a little bit warmer here in Utah. I'm getting older. I don't do the winter sports anymore. I like to play more tennis, more golf. I don't play a lot of golf, but more outdoor, more hiking. Anyways, clean air, clean water. We can all agree on that. Yes, thank you. And that is my deep thoughts for today.